Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I am Connor. This is Vince. Here's Tiny P, and this is the Tiny Peyton podcast. We have a lot to talk about. The Colts got a draw in New England, one of our least favorite places to watch football. But with that being said, our first preseason game, first game day in a while, me and Vince have a lot of thoughts, a lot to react to, a lot of storylines, and starting with every Colts fan's favorite storyline has to be Anthony Richardson. So how do you think Anthony Richardson, did he catch your eye? Any twinkle left there?
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. It's fun to talk about Anthony Richardson again. It feels like we haven't done this in a while, and I think it's so telling about the people who are still supporting Anthony and the people who are just so against him. He's a very polarizing player.
What people are you?
I've always been an Anthony Richardson supporter. I think we've made ourselves clear on that. Why would you not want Anthony Richardson in 60? There's no downside to it, but I understand some Colts fans have a bad taste in their mouth from things like tapping out and inconsistent play, and I'm not going to deny any of that. But I think whenever you have the number 4 overall pick who has the traits that he has, why would you not want a guy like this to succeed? He could be one of the most electrifying players in the NFL if he puts it all together, and I don't think that's deniable. So, yeah, he caught my eye. It was cool to watch him play against the Patriots. He had a great comeback there. After he got benched, he came back. And I think he did some good things, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Didn't he do the L Sully that game?
He did, yeah, the Fortnite.
The Fortnite L. He started emoting. Yeah.
He started emoting.
So here are before we start to get into, and yes, that is my dog barking. I apologize to the viewers. Before we get into our kind of raw reactions, this is the notes I took, okay?
All right.
So I started with, we got the full Anthony Richardson experience, like the highs, the lows. We got all of that in one half a play. Would you agree?
Yeah, which I'm excited to break that down a little bit.
Yeah. So he goes 11 for 14, which is, his old foe is that completion percentage. It's not that bad. The only thing with that 11 for 14 number is the misses were air balls. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
He comes out, they run a naked bootleg first play, and he just whiffs. And I texted everybody. I was like, "Oh, Anthony!" Like,
well, and that's the play that Daniel Jones made his money on last year. Was the play action and getting out into the flat. And Anthony Richardson still struggles to make that throw. I mean, he was gliding back when he made that throw. Just seems like he doesn't really know what to do there.
Yeah, guy's wide open. And then same drive, he throws a bad pick. Do you want to break down like schematically what happened?
Yeah, I think probably what happened is, you had 2 receivers to the same side, and you had a go route on the outside and an out route coming from the slot. And that corner on the outside was squatting on it, probably playing cloud corner or something. If it was Palmsy or cover 2, I don't really know. It doesn't really matter, honestly. What happened, the corner's squatting on it, and either way, let's say you throw that ball, the receiver could get lit up. But it just invites bad things. It's not a very well placed ball. You could put the ball down low and have the receiver maybe catch it and go down and get 3 yards, but It's not an advantageous throw.
It was a catchable ball. Coleman's not the biggest receiver in the world, but it was still a bad ball nonetheless.
Yeah, and it is like something like the receiver does need to make that catch, but at the end of the day, like it's on Anthony for a reason. There's some things that you'd probably like to see a little bit better there, but shared blame, and that was how he wrapped up his first drive, and we were really worried about his confidence from there. We had a 3rd down that got blown up when he just threw a screen on the outside, and his body language just looked, he just had no swagger at that point.
Yeah, and
which Anthony's known for.
And Shane also. So later on, he fumbles on a scramble, a good scramble, by the way. It was a good scramble, a good play he made, and then he fumbles, and Shane looked like somebody had shot his child. I've never seen a head coach be that disappointed in somebody in a preseason game, and just like, I don't know, something with their relationship just is really off, I think.
Yeah.
But
that play is such a tell on his career, and I think a lot of Colts fans have talked about it. It's kind of obvious, the storytelling, but he sees a check down, or maybe doesn't see it, doesn't throw it, and then he scrambles. He puts a defensive lineman into the ground.
Yeah, he stiff armed a DI, which is ridiculous.
He's just, it's silly how athletic he is. But then he gets on the move and he's holding the football willy-nilly in his forearm, and it gets popped out from behind.
Yeah, so that was frustrating. However, Anthony comes back and he plays pretty well after the mistakes that we just mentioned. So he runs the ball pretty well. Couple of designs. Our favorite Anthony Richardson play, the pin and pull, Shane called. We've been in love with that play for years. One thing I do want to mention, my dad called me about the game, and my dad was talking about how he wants to see like Anthony and run designs during the season. However, this is of note. This is why the QB2 battle matters. The QB3 cannot play in a game unless the first two quarterbacks get hurt. Those are the NFL rules, okay? So emergency quarterback, your QB3 can only come in the game. So he's technically inactive, but he can play if both quarterbacks get hurt, okay? The Brock Purdy rule. But if Anthony is QB3 on the depth chart, there will be no like pin and pull packages at all. So it is important for Anthony that he plays well and he wins this job. If you're an Anthony fan, if you're a Colts fan, and you want to see him in games, and you want to see, maybe you're a fan of bringing him in for design runs, he's gonna have to win this QB2 battle. That's why it matters.
And I do think it's worth bringing up as well that the QB2 battle matters for a lot of reasons, and the QB2 spot is likely going to have to be utilized at some point. Daniel Jones has only played one full season, to my knowledge. I could read his games played statistically.
Okay, yeah, you pull that up while I keep going through the notes. I did say the ball still zips out of Anthony's hand, like unlike anything I've ever seen. Like it's beautiful to watch. You know what I mean? The raw arm talent that guy had, and I don't have to belabor the point. Like we all know this as Colts fans, but just every time I still see it, it's just like, man, that ball flies out of his hand. You know?
Yeah, I mean, he still makes a couple of these throws in this game where you're like, man, this guy could still really play in this league. He looks the part. He threw an out route probably 15 yards downfield, threw an in cut 15 yards downfield where the ball just spins out of his hands so effortlessly, and it makes you think it's even more frustrating why he can't put it all together. But yeah. Meanwhile, I do have Daniel Jones's games played, and I think it's worth mentioning because, like Connor said, the QB2 spot's very important and is all likely going to play this year at some point. So Daniel Jones, starting from his rookie season and going forward, 13 games, 14 games, 11 games, 16 games, which is his only full season. That's when they went to the playoffs. 6 games in 2023, 10 games his last year with the Giants, and then 13 games last year for the Colts.
This is his 8th year, so in 7 seasons he's played 1 full season, okay? So the QB2 battle really matters, okay? Which I did, the only wrap-up I had with Anthony is a good 2-minute drill to end the half, which, you know, ending on a high note was good. I think it was important for him to battle back after struggling early. I think in his development process as a quarterback for his career, I actually think that was really important to get back. And, you know, he had a rushing touchdown. He could have had 2. But yeah, I think that was a really important experience for Anthony the other night.
Definitely. And I think going forward, if he can build on that, I think he does have a step ahead as far as, you know, what we've seen so far in this preseason. What happens in practice and what happens in these joint practices will be important as well, because I do think there's some reasons why the Colts want to choose Riley Leonard, and obviously if the Anthony Richardson trade request is still being taken seriously, that plays into it as well. So however this turns out, you know, Anthony probably did himself some favors on Thursday. Yeah,
and Riley helped out by not playing well. Me and Vince are big Riley fans. We're Notre Dame fans, so we've been rooting on the guy a long time, and we really like Riley. But it was a tough watch out there for our boy.
He struggled, and he didn't look as decisive as you'd probably hope. But to try to build off of what he did at the end of last year, getting some really valuable game experience against really good defensive competition. And then in this preseason game, he gets the second half really against third string players, and he definitely struggled. That's not to say that it's all his fault. We're a little more, nuanced than that, but he's definitely putting himself in a tough spot going forward.
And I'll talk about him more in a little bit when we rehash the game. With Anthony though, I think I've come to the conclusion that I do not want to cut Anthony. Right? Some people speculate that if the Colts can't find a trade for him, I actually think they started him because they're trying to get good tape out there so we can work out a trade. We can't control if Anthony Richardson wants to leave or not. So if we do cut him, it might not be the Colts' decision that makes it. It might just be Anthony wanting a fresh start. However, I do think I want Anthony on this roster.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think he does more good for us than he would anywhere else. And ultimately, if I'm Anthony Richardson, this is probably the place to be. You don't want to go to a garbage team where you could happen to fall into the starting lineup and play for a bad offensive coach in a roster that's depleted. This Colts roster has a lot of talent on offense still that he's familiar with, and with Shane Steichen, he's familiar with. This is still the best spot for Anthony to be, in my opinion. I don't think it's really that close.
I just don't even know where he'd go either. Obviously, what's his name? The Vikings coach. What's his name?
Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell's had a big crush on Anthony for years. However, the Vikings just named Kyler the starting quarterback. They have J.J. McCarthy, who they drafted.
They have their own developmental quarterback problem.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz is still on that roster, which I assume he makes
our favorite.
Yeah, our favorite, Carson Wentz. Yeah, so I think that's your three QBs right there. So he's not going to the Vikings. He's not. If I were Anthony, I would stay put and just keep working, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
So let us know in the comments if you guys are Anthony fans. We've always been Team Anthony. We've always wanted Anthony to succeed. It killed us when he didn't, but yeah, let us know how you guys feel. I know he's a polarizing figure amongst Colts fans. Me and my dad have arguments about him a lot. So with that being said, we're going to move on to a couple winners and losers from preseason game 1. We're going to start with the winners. Vince, who did you have as a winner?
So one of them's Anthony Richardson putting out some good tape, which I think we've talked about his performance enough at this point. But I thought he showed some good things on tape. Do you want to go to your first one? Or
yeah, I said I had linebackers as a group. So not just one player specifically, but the linebacker group looked really good. Bryce, the young third round, yeah. The young third rounder looked good. He had
I'm sorry, fourth round, 155th.
Fourth round.
AJ
Yeah.
Halsey was the third round.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
My fault. He looked really good. He had a really good hard hit TFL in the first half. He played most of the game. Definitely has an NFL physique. We know he's an athlete. He got drafted to play baseball, but it looks like he's going to be playing some snaps this year. We have a young group, and he seemed exciting. But the reason I said linebackers is because I thought Jalen was good too. We've been high on Jalen for a while. He just needs to stay on the field. He's got a couple of injuries that have piled up, but I like Jalen. Austin Adjuke also, I think, had a TFL. He is fast. He's one of the faster guys of the group. He did a good job in the first half spying Mahomes last year against the Chiefs. So with a young group that has some questions, I thought the linebackers stood out as a winner.
Definitely. I went somewhere along those lines with Bryce, agreeing that he had a really good performance. It's always a good sign in a preseason game if it's his first preseason game and he's able to really show his physicality, hit people with some force. He looks the part, and he looks like at least he could be a more tackling machine type player. Hopefully he shows some coverage skills and continues to get a grasp on this system.
coverage skills, Jalen had a PD, which I was happy about. Speaking of coverage, nobody can be worse than Zaire Franklin coverage. That's the good news is we're automatically improving in linebacker coverage skills by having Zaire not on the field. So addition by subtraction.
Definitely.
Another winner I had was young pass rushers. We had a sack from both George Gums Jr. as well as Southside's very own Caden Curry. So if I bring up the box score here, Caden Curry lit up the stat sheet for us on defense. He goes 6 total tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 2 TFLs, 2 PDs, 3 QB hits. His motor is insane.
Yeah, for sure. And I think from watching some of his college games last year, and even before that, you could see that teams really didn't like going against him. He's very high motor, very annoying, very confident player. Seems to talk a good amount of trash. He's the one who lit up Mendoza on that first play of the Big Ten championship game, and I think a lot of people took notice to that.
Yeah, knocked his clock.
Yeah, so Caden Curry is not afraid to be physical, not afraid to get under someone's skin, and he's extremely relentless. I was told recently that he was eager to play special teams at Ohio State as much as possible, which I think that just goes to show you that this guy.
Because he just wanted to play. He just wanted to play.
Yeah,
so,
he wants to play.
And we've known about him for a very long time. We're fellow Southsiders, so it made me happy seeing him on the field, seeing the South Side represented. But also Gums, he has a lot of developing to do as a player. But he was bendy. He got a sack. Somebody that I didn't know if he was going to make the roster or not, but he looked good last night. Or the other night.
They mentioned on the broadcast that he played some wide receiver, so
which is crazy.
It goes to show you that we've gone the route of a project, developmental athlete as far as a rusher goes. He was our 5th round pick, but looking like he has a chance to make this roster. He's 6'4", 245 pounds. I agree. He showed some good skills yesterday. He was able to get off the ball fast and make some plays.
Do you have any other winners you'd want to talk about?
Those were really the guys I had highlighted on defense. And I think that pretty much covers the bulk of the game.
Okay. The last winner I had was, we talked about this earlier, Spencer. Spencer Schrader hit a 61-yard field goal and injected himself right back into the competition. As far as we've heard, Blake Grupe's been dominating camp. I don't think he had missed coming into the Patriots game. And I don't want to kick a guy for missing a 60-yard field goal, right? It's not like, I'm not going to be like, oh, cut him because he missed a 60-yard field goal. But then Spencer comes on and hits a 60-yard field goal. So I think Spencer just injected himself right back into the competition. So
yeah, this is very much a battle, and it's an interesting one. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will like Grupe because he hit the long field goal against Seattle to put us up at the time. So he showed some long distance hitting. Spencer Schrader was a special teams player of the week early in the season last year. He seemed to be very consistent to start before he got injured. So I really don't think we can go wrong with who we choose.
Who are you leaning towards?
I really liked going with Spencer Schrader with how consistent he looked last year, and I think that's a big thing that Shane Steichen was leaning on, especially with, you get, with the new touchback rule, getting to the 35, and it's just like, okay, you get a couple first downs, now you're in field goal range, and I want someone who's going to be consistent. I care more about accuracy at this point more than power, which I think that's surprising because I probably would have gone the other way. You want to have the chance to make long kicks. But I think consistency in today's game, I think, is starting to become even more valuable with the new touchback rules getting placed at the 35-yard line at times. So
I also highly value PAT consistency, which that's why Grupe got cut from the Saints last year, is he was struggling with PATs, which makes me nervous. I do not like missing PATs. It pisses me off. So I think Spencer was perfect last year for us, PAT-wise. So, yeah, right now I'm leaning Spence, but he's got to show it in camp. He's been struggling in camp. Grupe's been doing well in camp, so he's still fighting an uphill battle, but yeah, I had him as my last winner. So, do you have any losers?
I know there's been a lot of heat about the cornerback battle, which I'm sure you're going to talk about, kind of the depth from previous conversations. But Jonathan Edwards and Mekhi Blackman definitely had rough games. Mekhi Blackman had some penalties early on. It seemed like they were really picking on him. I think Jonathan Edwards really struggled in man coverage. They were exclusively targeting him when they had to have it. And I say have to have it. It's a preseason game, but you're running 20-yard curl routes down the field and turning around, and who's getting beat? It's Jonathan Edwards. So the cornerback depth is definitely a little bit of a concern based on last night. We try to run a lot of man coverage, which I think there could be some themes there that we'll talk about, but I think that group really struggled. I
also had just corner depth as a loser. Blackman just got picked on like at a school lunch, like the bully picks on a little kid. But yeah, he got picked on bad. The first drive was atrocious for Blackman as well.
Yeah.
So the first drive was atrocious. Oh yeah, Blackman.
Yeah.
Edwards gave up that touchdown, lost in man coverage on deep crossers a lot. I thought Jalen Jones was not going to make this team, but he might now. But he's running with the threes now. No bigger hater than this guy, by the way, of Jalen Jones. I've been picking on Jalen for a long time, even when other Colts fans really like him. He's not been my guy. However, I do think he can make this team now because of how bad Blackman and Edwards were the other night.
Well, there's definitely a chance. Jalen Jones has played at least some decent football for us. I think a big complaint of ours is his consistency and his tackling and stuff like that. But
awful tackler.
When you look
I hate corners who can't tackle.
When you look at things like just not being able to stay with people in coverage, I think Jalen Jones could crawl back into it just because of those conversations.
The only thing about Jalen is he's definitely a zone corner. Really good for Gus's scheme at the time, but I just don't think he fits Lou's version of what he wants out of a corner.
And I think that's why you've seen he's gotten buried on the depth chart ever since we've gotten Lou.
Notable Cam Taylor-Britt will be missing. He got suspended for a game, so that does affect who they keep on the roster. Edwards, I can see being a special teamer, but we see now, though, if those guys have to be on the boundary at any point during the season, it makes me nervous. I thought this was a deep cornerback room. However, I had them as a loser. I also had Riley as a loser, which I talked about. Horrible pick. First of all, the third string offensive line was not doing him any favors. Absolutely got his clock cleaned when he threw that pick. I think his first play, he got lit up and actually made a good play.
Yeah.
So, and it obviously playing bad in a preseason game. It's fine. The problem is you're in a QB2 battle with Anthony Richardson. So took a horrible sack where he's just trying to do too much. I've seen him do stuff get out of that at Notre Dame, but you're not athletic enough in the NFL to be able to do that, Riley. Sorry.
Definitely. Another loser I had was, or maybe a player that I wanted to see more from based on what we've seen, is Adebawore on the defensive line. No quarterback hits, no sacks. I knew that wouldn't be a huge talking point, but I do think it's something that we can continue to monitor, so to speak. That Adebawore didn't really show a lot of pass rushing wins and some of the upside that you've seen previously with him.
I think expect to see him on the field a lot during the season too. So
I think so.
Especially on first and second down, I think they might slide him out on the edge. So yes, I didn't even think about that, but that's a good key point. My last loser was wide receiver depth. Not a lot of separation, especially in the second half when Riley came in. The wide receiver depth was bad. Deion's a guy me and Vince we're big fans of his when we went to see him at Purdue. One catch on a screen, right?
Yeah,
so
it was a screen.
There's just not a lot of Westbrook Akine had a catch. I believe.
Yeah, for 19 yards.
Yes. So, I mean, the best receiver on the field was Will Mallory. I had him as my last winner. Forgot to mention that. Will Mallory was good. Chris Ballard promised us Will Mallory was going to be good, and I guess for once Chris Ballard was right. However, he doesn't block, so
there's not really a lot of pathway for him to get on the field. I know some Colts fans are talking about him losing weight and potentially just converting to wide receiver, but because he did test well out of Miami, he ran like a 4.53.
That's an off-season thing that we're in. We started the season.
That's right. That would be an off-season thing.
We can't do that right now. It's not an option.
It is probably too late for him to consider doing that, but maybe that would be something he'd be wanting to do going forward. But he did show some nice wiggle on his routes and
athleticism. It's worth mentioning that he was the number one tight end prospect in his high school class, actually.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, the receiver depth, if we pull up the stats here, nobody really stuck out to me in particular. Yeah, well, besides like Sharp, Westbrook Akina. Sharp had 4 for 29.
Yeah.
So none of these guys.
Targets, yeah.
Coleman Owen is a guy that Shane Steichen seems to like having around. He had 2 for 17. Didn't do that well. DJ Montgomery, Colts preseason staple, only had 1 for 13. So
he is someone who's been on the Colts preseason roster for a few years now. Yeah. So he is. Shout out to DJ Montgomery. He's definitely one of our favorites.
But yes, wide receiver depth. We knew it's not like a major talking point that this team lacks wide receiver depth. I just wanted to see if some of the young guys could create some separation, do something interesting, but
the problem
just didn't happen.
And the problem is, and if you want our roster breakdown, you should probably go back and watch that. It's our first video, but we talked a lot about how guys are going to have to step up in their roles as wide receiver, as far as wide receiver goes. And really, it makes you, after this game, I think it reaffirms that if there is an injury at wide receiver, that this team does not have a lot of answers. And that's going to be something you worry about when Alec Pierce and Josh Downs, who have both missed games for different reasons, not a concerning amount, but those games could be a real struggle for us.
Is there any worry that Alec Pierce doesn't make it to week 1?
Based on what I've heard, no. I know there was a lot of controversy about did he get another injection after his surgery, and turns out that report was false. He did not get a recent injection. But supposedly, even if he did get an injection, supposedly that would be considered normal and not super concerning. But I do think we're going to need Alec Pierce for week 1. Based on what I'm hearing he's going to play week 1. So
okay, I was interested about that. If he's not on the field week 1, then I start to get really nervous. I don't have any other losers. Do you have any other losers you want to talk about?
No, that's really it. I think we've covered it pretty well at this point. As a preseason, it's the first one, so we're going to have to continue to see if any of these things are consistent and what that means for our team going forward.
What we're going to do now, guys, we're going to kind of break down some scheme things. We have some stuff we want to talk about. We really want to talk a lot about scheme on this podcast. That's something we're really interested in. Vince, do you want to start with offense and kind of Shane's notes on that? So Vince is going to handle the offense. I'm going to handle the defense today.
All right, so starting with the offense, we're in year 4 of Shane Steichen. I think Shane Steichen's not really giving too much away in preseason games at this point. We worked wide zone a little bit, not a ton of gap scheme. We did go with that tight end screenplay that we talked a little bit about in previous episodes, where we fake the gap scheme and then throw back to the tight end. We did that out of shotgun. Saw some flood concepts, some of the really staple pass concepts of an NFL offense. There's really nothing that unordinary about what Shane Steichen was doing. I did think it was cool that we pulled out the quarterback pin and pull for Anthony Richardson.
Love that play.
When Anthony Richardson gets a full head of steam on the perimeter with a convoy of 300-pounders, it's a lot to handle. I don't think I've seen that play get stopped a single time. The problem is you can't build an NFL offense around just one play. It's just a small piece of all of this. But on offense, I don't think we worked a whole lot. Like I said, with the wide zone, getting some different backs involved. But I do think it goes to show you that Anthony Richardson, he still has a place in Shane Steichen's heart with the quarterback pin and pull, because that means he left that in the playbook.
Yes, he did. Which makes me happy. I don't expect to see Daniel doing any of that.
Did we run any design quarterback runs last year?
He hardly ran at all.
Yeah.
I know he was playing on a fractured foot at one point in the season, but he's somebody who has used his legs a lot in New York. I believe he had 700 yards rushing that year they made the playoffs. If you can spot check me on that. But
yeah, that's right. He
had that
rushing, he had 708 yards and 7 touchdowns a year.
And we hardly ran him at all. I remember he took a huge lick in the first game.
He did, and that was a scramble. Most of his work was done scrambling, running with the Colts. We did do quarterback sneaks, but we're really talking about
he had 4 touchdowns on quarterback sneaks, but none on. He didn't have any scrambles or design runs.
Yeah.
So I wonder, do you think we see Daniel run a little bit more, or design wise from Shane?
I don't think so. I've heard, some coaches are just going to go back to, really the fundamentals of, we're going to protect the quarterback, we're going to throw the ball. This kind of goes back into my beliefs a little bit about, I think an NFL offense, or really any offense for that matter, needs to have a couple of these key things. Are you going to be able to throw the ball to your running back? Are you going to be able to throw the ball to your tight end? And are you going to have a quarterback run game? I think if you don't have a quarterback run game, I think you should probably have the ability to throw the ball to tight end or running back. Because I think what you saw with Anthony Richardson year 2, which, Anthony was not great. I'm not really talking about that, but we had no tight end presence, and Jonathan Taylor does not run any unorthodox routes for a running back. I'm not talking about running swings and getting out in the flat. I'm talking about actually threatening a defense down the field. I do think now we're starting to get into the running back screen game again, which we had some success on last year, which we talked about on the last pod. So I think that's a pathway towards getting production out of the running back room in the passing game. But that's kind of how I best answer that. I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but those are some of the beliefs that I have about offensive football.
How different does this offense look X's and O's wise when Daniel's leading it versus Anthony? Is it more simplified with Anthony at the helm, or what do you see?
Well, what's interesting is that with Anthony we ran 90% shotgun. With Daniel Jones we went about only 70% shotgun. We did a lot of work under center. We talked about putting Tyler Warren at fullback. So this offense has changed a lot. Running boot and stuff. I mean, we did not bring Shane Steichen in to run boot. We brought Shane Steichen in to run the Jalen Hurts offense and develop Anthony Richardson.
Yes.
And that didn't happen. So now we've kind of pivoted. Shane Steichen has a lineage, working with Norv Turner and some more pro-style offenses, and I think you're starting to see a little bit more pro-style versus the college spread stuff that you've seen previously.
Okay, cool. So I had some notes that I wrote down for the defense. Okay, we saw Lou was going to this 5-man front on rundowns, which was really interesting. I don't know if it was an experiment. I don't know if that's something he plans to do a lot during the regular season, but it was in the first half, it was every first and second down, he was going with a 5-man front, which was really interesting. The problem is you need to have corners that are sticky in man coverage to be able to do something like that. As we saw, Blackman and Edwards, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but they just got beat on these deep crossing routes. That's the problem if you're going to play 5 guys up front, right? Your corners are going to have to man up. And Ward and Sauce obviously can. It just, I don't know. It makes me a little nervous. What would you think about the 5-man front?
Well, I think you're hitting the nail right on the head with you need DBs that are able to play man coverage. And on rundowns, if you do want to commit to taking something away, then you're hoping with better personnel out there that these things will work. I'm not sure if it'll carry over to the regular season. If also Lou's been coaching for a very long time, but also it's only year 2 with this team, so I wouldn't be shocked if he was trying to experiment with some things and see how these guys were comfortable in these looks.
Lou's kind of known to be a little bit of a mad scientist when it comes to like defensive schemes and things like that. So maybe it was just an experiment. We did get 7 TFLs, which, some of those came in the run game on those run. Like, it was working. That's the thing. Like, the 5-man front was working against the run. So maybe that's something we utilize against teams who do run the ball really well. Our corners have to man up. And if there's injuries, my point is, if there's injuries in the secondary, I do not want to be seeing that in the regular season. I do not want to be seeing 5-man fronts.
Well, definitely. And I think, Lou is known to be game plan specific against each opponent, and I do wonder if that has something to do with the first game being the Ravens game, because Lamar Jackson has notoriously struggled against having more guys at the line of scrimmage. He had a famous game against where he played against Brian Flores, and they double mugged him the whole game, so it's 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. I wonder if the Colts are looking ahead to that matchup and seeing if putting more guys at the line of scrimmage could be something we do against Lamar Jackson and possibly other mobile quarterbacks around the league.
Yeah, a little preview too for week 1. Lou has played Lamar a bunch of times. He was Cincy's defensive coordinator, so that could be something he has up his sleeve for Lamar Jackson. So speaking of those young linebackers, they're gonna have to get ready for that game in a big way. But we'll talk about that when the time comes. But yeah, other than that, I was just really interested in that 5-man front. Do you have anything else you want to add?
That's pretty much it. I think it was a good first preseason game against good competition. It was good to practice against the Patriots and play them. They went to the Super Bowl last year, so it's nice to go against a competitive football team against some competition.
What did you hear out of the joint practices?
I think some of the stuff, that's going viral is about Sauce Gardner getting beat by A.J. Brown. And, I'm not going to, we're a little more educated than to get fed up about an 8-yard curl route and one-on-ones where, I don't know if you guys have ever seen one-on-ones, but normally you're completing about 80% of those passes with no pass rush, no offensive line in front. Imagine if you played quarterback for your job. And now all of a sudden I take away 300-pound bodies in front of you. I mean, it's
and pass rush.
It turns out to be more like shooting fish out of a barrel, to be honest. Especially if you have good wideouts. Which AJ Brown's a very talented wideout. Did he beat Sauce Gardner? Yes, he did. But
I'm not going to take one clip out of context.
I'm not going to freak out over that.
I'm not taking one clip out of context and freaking out. Sauce is Sauce. Will continue to be Sauce.
Another headline is Tyler Warren continues to feast. They use the word that he feasted on the Patriots. Are there any things that you think Tyler Warren could improve on from year 1 to year 2 that you think could grow in his game?
I don't know. I almost want to say consistency because he kind of trailed off towards the end of the season, but the whole offense trailed off. It's like it's not really his fault per se. What does he need to improve? I guess just what do you think?
Well, yeah, so the reason I ask is because it is kind of a hard question. He's a versatile player, and I think that kind of implies that he does everything pretty well. So it's like, so where do you grow your game? I would like to see him get stronger at the top of his routes, continue to separate better. Probably a little bit more improvement in the contested catch department.
Okay.
Which I think that's fair. I mean, for him being as big as he had some really good ones against Patrick Surtain. But there are also times, I think when you look at the stats, I think he was not quite as high as you would think for a player of that size. And then lastly would be his yards after catch. I still think there's another gear to that.
Some more yak. Yeah, I agree.
Which, I think you saw, some potential last year, but another big thing that I'm big on is tight ends running out of bounds. I think you need to get a lot of yak after near the sideline, because that's a lot of times where corners are, and corners don't want to tackle you.
I'd also like to
George Kittle talks a lot about that too.
Oh, really? I would like to see some form of tight end screens with him too, so the yak is a good point. Anything else out of camp?
Those are really the main points. Josh Downs made someone fall.
Oh yes, I saw that. That went viral as well.
I heard the Colts quarterbacks had a good day on the 7-on-7s. I think Daniel Jones went like 15 of 22. I think Drake May went 15 of 23.
Mm-hmm. I heard we're not going to see him in preseason too. So
that's another thing that we've heard as well. So, but other than that, that was pretty much it from joint practice against the Patriots and what we've heard.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like the Patriots.
We do not like the Patriots. I was telling Vince I got like PTSD watching that game. I hate Gillette. I hate it at night. I hate it in the fall. Gillette's the worst. It's good to have football back. I enjoyed sitting down after work and watching the Colts.
It is. We're getting close.
We are getting close. Ending in a draw kind of sucked, but we'll take it. We'll take them missing the field goal to draw. I'm glad we didn't say we got beat by the Patriots again. So I think that kind of wraps the episode. I think this might be a little bit of a shorter one today. We are really enjoying this, guys. So I like legitimately enjoy like prepping for this and getting ready for this, and
definitely
we just continue to like and subscribe, please. That really helps the algorithm. That really helps us. I know it's like being a dead horse when people who post on YouTube say that, but it really does help us out. We're just having fun, and we hope that you guys are having as much fun listening to this as we are making these, because prepping for these videos is actually super fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, we're really appreciative of you guys for watching and supporting this channel. Please remember to like and subscribe, like Connor said, or else we'll just assume that you're Dallas Cowboys fans.
Yeah, correct. Also, follow us on our socials. It's just, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Tiny Peyton Pod. So please go, just blow our stuff up. I'm Connor. This is Vince again. This is Tiny P. And I think that wraps our episode for today. Thank you so much, guys.
Go Colts.